It was supposed to be a typical political panel segment, filled with policy debates and partisan sound bites. But what unfolded during that live broadcast stunned viewers across both sides of the US-Canada border. Karoline Leavitt, the young and brash conservative commentator known for her fiery rhetoric, found herself at the center of a rapidly escalating controversy when she made what many called a disgraceful and sweeping insult toward Canadians. The discussion had initially been about economic ties between the two countries, with panelists weighing in on trade, immigration, and shared border policies. But things took a wild turn when Leavitt suddenly declared that Canada had become nothing but a welfare country of pampered liberals who'd rather sip maple syrup and get handouts than work for anything. The studio fell silent for a moment. Even the host looked stunned, unsure whether to cut to commercial or let the moment hang. Karoline, unfazed, smirked as if proud of her provocation, but what she didn't expect was that sitting across from her was someone not just knowledgeable, but deeply connected to the Canadian identity. Mark Carney. To Mark Carney, a former Bank of Canada governor and Bank of England chief, has always maintained a reserved, professional tone in media appearances. But this time, something shifted in his demeanor. He removed his glasses slowly, fixed a piercing gaze on Karoline, and with his usual calm but authoritative voice, began to dismantle her comments. "Ms. Leavitt," he said firmly, "Canada is not your political punchline. Your statement is not only factually incorrect, it's profoundly ignorant." The tension in the room skyrocketed. Karoline chuckled and tried to shrug it off with another jab. "Come on, Mark, don't get all emotional. I'm just saying what a lot of Americans are thinking." But Carney wasn't having it. "Then it's a tragedy so many are misinformed," he replied. "Because what you've just said ignores our contributions to global peacekeeping, our balanced fiscal management, our strong banking system, and our unwavering commitment to democratic values." At that point, even the conservative-leaning panelists started shifting uncomfortably in their seats. The clash had just begun, but Carney's tone made it clear this wasn't going to be a shouting match. This was going to be a takedown. Caroline attempted to steer the conversation back into her comfort zone by making a broader attack on socialist policies, arguing that Canada's public healthcare system and government programs were signs of national weakness. "You people just love your safety nets," she said mockingly. "But in America, we earn our freedom." The insult was clear. Carney calmly responded, "Ms. Leavitt, freedom isn't measured by how little a government does for its people. It's measured by how secure and dignified a life it can help provide. And in Canada, we believe no one should go bankrupt because of a broken arm or a cancer diagnosis." That line drew applause from part of the live audience. Karoline rolled her eyes and said, "Yeah, and you get taxed to death for it." Carney smiled slightly and replied, "And yet we still have a lower poverty rate, less gun violence, and more trust in institutions than you do. Perhaps there's a lesson in that." The host, sensing the power dynamics shifting hard in Carney's favor, tried to lighten the mood. But the damage was already done. Asterisk, as the segment continued, it became more than a mere exchange of opinions. It had evolved into a real-time dissection of ideology versus lived experience. Karoline, visibly irritated, accused Canada of riding America's coattails, implying that their prosperity was dependent on U.S. defense and trade. Mark Carney's response was immediate and surgical. "Canada has stood beside the United States in every major global conflict of the last century. We fought in Normandy, in Korea, in Afghanistan. Our troops have bled beside yours. To say we ride your coattails is not only wrong, it dishonors shared sacrifice." That comment hit hard. Even those who didn't agree with Carney politically couldn't deny the weight of that truth. Karoline tried to recover, but her voice now lacked the earlier swagger. "I'm just saying, Canadians always act so superior," she muttered. Carney leaned forward and replied, "And I'm saying that making generalizations about an entire nation from a TV studio is the kind of arrogance that weakens your own arguments." Silence followed. The audience could sense the shift. Leavitt had walked into a fire she didn't expect. Asterisk online, the exchange exploded almost instantly. Clips began circulating within minutes of the segment ending. With hashtags like hashtag Mark Carney and hashtag Karoline outburst trending on Twitter, Canadians expressed outrage but also immense pride, praising Carney for standing up with poise and dignity. Even Americans across the political spectrum voiced embarrassment at Karoline's remarks, calling her tone smug and uninformed. Memes flooded Instagram and TikTok, with Carney's calm rebuttals turned into viral soundbites. Meanwhile, Karoline's supporters tried to spin the narrative, claiming she was speaking hard truths, but her comments were too blunt, too dismissive, and ultimately too disrespectful to gain any real traction. As the wave of public opinion grew, several Canadian officials, including MPs and even former diplomats, issued statements condemning Leavitt's rhetoric. One notable tweet from a Canadian veteran simply read, "I didn't fight beside Americans in Afghanistan to be called lazy on live TV." The moment had transcended politics, it had become personal. Karoline's response to the backlash was a textbook example of political deflection. She tweeted that she wouldn't apologize for speaking the truth, and accused globalists like Mark Carney of being out-of-touch elites who hate free speech. The reaction to that tweet was brutal. Thousands of replies poured in, calling out the false equivalence between criticism and censorship. Carney, for his part, remained silent on social media, allowing the dignity of his on-air response to speak louder than any online sparring ever could. Editorials across Canadian and American media praised Carney's approach, noting how he managed to defend national pride without descending into anger or personal attacks. Political analysts pointed out that this moment was a prime example of how populist rhetoric often crumbles when faced with well-articulated facts and historical context. And for many, it reinforced the belief that television debates require not just passion, but depth. And Leavitt had brought one without the other. By the next morning, major news networks were replaying the clip across time slots while mourning. Talk shows dissected the exchange like a sports play-by-play. Carney was invited to multiple interviews, but he declined, simply issuing a brief statement. "I'm proud of my country, and I will always stand up for it when it's misrepresented." That single sentence carried more weight than any shouting match ever could. In contrast, Karoline doubled down during a podcast appearance, claiming that the woke mob couldn't handle a little truth and accusing the media of bias. But even her own political allies seemed reluctant to defend her this time. Several conservative commentators distanced themselves, saying the tone of her remarks was needlessly inflammatory and lacked nuance. Some insiders hinted that this segment might damage her credibility in future political aspirations, especially among voters who value diplomacy over drama. It had become painfully clear Karoline had underestimated her opponent, the power of his quiet, unwavering intellect. The incident also sparked a broader conversation about how countries, like Canada, are often stereotyped in American media, usually for comedic effect, but occasionally with real malice. Carney's rebuttal opened the eyes of many viewers who admitted they had never thought much about Canada's global contributions. Schools began using the clip in civics classes, and journalists across the globe praised the moment as a rare case where decorum triumphed over theatrics. Meanwhile, Canadian media outlets used the moment to reflect on their own identities, even thanking Karoline sarcastically for reminding Canadians what they stand for. There was something poetic in the way one insult had rekindled national pride, not through outrage, but through calm defense. And Carney, a man often viewed as too technocratic or boring for TV, became an overnight sensation. His calm logic and refusal to be baited resonated with a public tired of shouting matches and looking for someone who could speak truth with grace. As the days passed, the buzz began to quiet, but the impact lingered. Karoline's comment was now part of her public record, a clip that would live on the internet forever. Her team attempted to bury the moment by flooding media with other interviews, but the stain remained.
Ow.
Every time she appeared, viewers remembered the insult. In contrast, Carney's stature only grew. Though he declined to capitalize on the moment, he was now seen not just as a policy wonk, but as a public figure with backbone and pride. His fan base grew, and speaking invitations doubled. University forums, international panels. Even late-night hosts referenced him as the man who defended a country with facts instead of fury. And while Canada moved on with its usual quiet strength, the memory of how its honor was defended on live television stayed fresh in the minds of those who watched.